The Kent School District Board meetings are held in public on the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month at 7 p.m. at the Administration Center in accordance to the Washington State Open Public Meetings Act. Regular meetings include presentations and reports dealing with district operations, as well as time set aside for public comment. Now, here are your Kent School District Board of Directors. Welcome to tonight's board meeting.
All right, so good evening. Welcome to our board meeting tonight. Earlier tonight, we had a recognition where we recognized some of our retirees this evening. So we had retirees representing 486 years, I believe it was, worth of service to our district, which was really fun to be able to recognize that. So we are going to start tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I've asked Mr. McKenzie from Kent Lake to please lead us in the pledge tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So again, welcome to our meeting. Tonight is a meeting of the board that is held in public to comply with the Open Public Meeting Act. That being said, in the back of the room underneath strategic goals are some cards similar to this one. If you wish to speak to the board, please make sure you bring those cards up to me or up to the dais here. If you're speaking to an agenda item, please make sure that it comes up prior to that agenda item. And when you are called upon, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. So with that, Dr. Apostle, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Yes, President Strauss, members of the board and audience, there is an amended personnel report to be considered by the board on the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this time, I would ask for a motion to approve the additional consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there
I'll
a
second that.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. So we are going to start tonight with a recognition, and I'm excited about this because it's the school that my kids have all gone to. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Hong, who's going to introduce our recognition.
President Strauss, Board of Directors, Dr. Apostle, and Ms. Hawley. It's my pleasure to ask Dr. Potts and Mr. McKenzie to come up here for some student recognitions and some of the outstanding work that's been taking place at Kent Lake High School.
There you go.
That says it all right there. President Strauss, members of the board, Dr. Apostle, it's my pleasure to begin the showcase of CSI Kent Lake tonight. And we had a teacher who had a great idea and collaborated with a number of our outstanding students to develop a brand new course. It's very exciting, and I'm going to let him talk a little bit about it and introduce the students. Mr. Jake McKenzie.
Thanks for the chance to recognize these guys. Dr. Potts wanted me to put this class together. You know, it's just some stuff we were talking about and tossing around about an idea for kids to get their hands on some science that's a higher level stuff. And one of the things that clicked to me early on was the idea that if I was going to do this, I have a certain point of view, but I wanted to make it so that it would grab the students, and that it made it something so that it would make it of interest to them when they walked into a very difficult class. And so I want to give you an idea of what I put together to work with, and if they'd come up as I talk about them, I'd appreciate it. The first is Bryce Studer. He's light and sound technician, one of our outstanding theater techs, and wants to go into that as a profession. So you've got somebody from that point of view. You've got Kiara Hickey, who wants to go into business administration and has a totally different, outlook and interest. You got Sydney Martin, who is going to be an art major. Again, a different point of view, a different outlook. And last, Odette Gomez. Oh boy, I just totally blanked. What are you going into? Neurology. That's why. She's so smart. She's so much smarter than me. It's like, so I got 4 people that I knew they had some spare time in their schedule, and I pulled them all in and I said, if Dr. Potts will allow you to be my TA, would you come in and take this material that I've gotten from my friends in the FBI, and would you look through it as a student, and would you tell me what grabs you and what makes this, what would make you want to take this class from me? Now, all of them have had me as a teacher, and all of them know what I expect. And honestly, I couldn't ask for better help. And these are Kent Lake seniors. This is what Dr. Potts and I are so proud of. Hands down.
Mr. McKenzie, really quick, because I know you sent it to me, but I don't think the other board members. Can you give just a little bit about what this class is? So this is a different science class than we have anywhere else, and I think it would be helpful for people to know.
This came out of something that I wanted. My AP biology class in high school did hands-on dissection, mounting, and stuff like that of animals, and it was something that was very powerful for me, and I wanted to do something like that. And when I approached Dr. Potts with that, I said, I wanted to do something like that, you know, where you look at the animal, how they died, and he goes, well, it's kind of like forensics. And I'm like, well, yeah. And he goes, so what if we put a forensics class together? And I said, okay. And so I started building it and putting it together, and then I brought it here and, you know, proposed it, and it passed. And then Morgan Holt, our librarian, who's a good friend of mine, got with me and started looking at the materials we would want to use. And that's when it hit me that I wanted somebody's input. Not mine, not a peer. I wanted somebody that this would be important to. And if I'm going to make a class that's important to kids that want to learn something, I wanted it to be from every avenue. And, you know, I had other options. I had other people I could have asked to come help. There was a list that I had, but these were the four that sat at the top of that list, and I didn't pick wrong.
So they all did over and above their TA. They spent many hours after school, many other
Met frequently.
weekends.
They met at the library.
Yeah.
They've done research, you know. I mean, they've done a lot of work.
And this will be a very CSI type class. They will be looking at DNA and all kinds of different things. So, and I believe we have something for the students. Yes, correct. So, it's right here. Okay, great, thanks. So we did want to give you an extra recognition for all your work in going over and above, and to really, it's always inspiring to see students when you're engaged in learning and want to do more, and so hopefully it'll be a good experience for you, what you've learned in this, and help inspire you in what you're doing as you go on through your high school years. So, with that. So this is just a recognition for their outstanding work as students helping out in this. So if we can give them a round of applause.
Debbie, could we hear where they're going to be going to after this?
Step up to the mic and tell us where you're going.
My current plan is to go to either Green River or Central or Cornish and pursue sound or lighting. So, yeah.
Man, the mic is. Thank you. I committed to Central Washington University in business administration, more specifically in human resources management.
I committed to Seattle Pacific University to study graphic design and photography.
And I'm going to Green River and then UW Medical to study neurology and laboratory medicine.
Great. Well, thank you again.
Yes.
Just one real quick thing for the students. So if anybody hasn't given you the bullet point for your resume, it's, you know, I participate because I've hired probably 100 people, and we look at resumes. The bullet point is participated on a multidisciplinary student team that developed a new class and won an award from the district. Does it say award or recognition?
It says recognition.
So recognized by the district and the board of directors for implementation. So seriously, use this to your advantage in seeking your next job.
All right. Thank you again. We'll see you all at graduation. All right. And so we actually had one other recognition that I'm throwing in here that's not on the agenda. For those of you who are not aware, this is Dr. Apostle's last week here at the district as our interim superintendent. And as a board, we wanted to take the opportunity to thank him for stepping up and stepping into the position and to helping us get through the year, and not just through the year, but having it be a good and successful year and being able to make good progress on the things that we were doing. And so we wanted to say thank you, and Karen has
Have a gift for you, and you have to open it now.
Act like you like it.
right there too. It's bubble wrap. Keep them safe. No.
Oh, this is beautiful.
And it's KSD blue.
Love it.
If you can hang it up, if you've got a deck with.
Yeah, we do, and we have many of these colors in our home as enhancements, and this is just, it's almost like you knew. So,
And it actually has a solar battery in it, so if you hang it outside, you're not only going to be reminded during the day of KSD, but also at night.
I'll especially look at it on Wednesday nights. No, I want to say thank you to the board for giving me the opportunity to serve the Kent community. This is a very special place. Many of you who have heard me speak before know that in my very core, I've truly enjoyed my experience here. I've learned a lot. Even after retirement, I've learned a lot, and when they talk about lifelong learning, I'll tell you, I'm living the dream of having that opportunity. So I'm indebted to all of you and those of you that I've had an opportunity to work with this year. I'll tell you, I'm a Kent fan, and I will be following your good work in the future. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr.
And so with that, we're going to move on to presentations for this evening, and starting with 3.01, the proposed health-based center. And I believe Dr. Beeman is leading us in this.
President Strauss, members of the board, Dr. Apostle, what we'd like to do for you and with you this evening is to continue the conversation that we previously started as an organization to talk about the school-based health center. Dr. Mary Newell has previously made a presentation to you. What we'd like to do for you this evening is for Dr. Newell to come back to the podium, but along with Dr. Newell to bring a couple of our colleagues, both within our organization and within the public health sector, so that they can share some additional information and just continue the good conversation. We encourage your questions. We're collecting questions, and what we're not able to provide a sufficient response tonight, we will certainly respond back to you and the public at the future. So may I ask Dr. Newell?
Thank you. Thank you again for letting us share this information about the School-Based Health Center. I bring two additional speakers with me this evening. Sarah Rigel from Seattle-King County Public Health will talk about the history and the running of school-based health centers in Seattle, and Marilee Lyle, who is the principal at Kent Phoenix Academy, which houses a school-based health center here in the Kent School District. So, Sarah?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Grateful to have had the opportunity to meet and speak with a couple of you already on a visit to Seattle to see some of our clinics there, and some of you I've spoken to on the phone. So Mary asked me to give you a little bit of background about school-based health in general, talk about our context of what we've been doing in Seattle for quite some time now. School-based health center is really not a new concept in this country. Began as an emerging to meet unmet health needs of children in the 1970s. A lot of resurgence and rapid increase in the number of centers in the 90s, and still currently today increasing all the time. There's more than 2,000 school-based health clinics across the country in nearly every state. I think there's only one state still missing a clinic at all. And really they're serving children all grade levels in a variety of urban, suburban, and rural settings across the country. So places where kids have different variability in their access to health services otherwise outside of their schools. And locally, our first school-based health center in the entire state of Washington was Rainier Beach High School, opened in 1987 in Seattle. And we are still operating that clinic today, operated by Public Health Seattle King County with a partnership with the Group Health Cooperative. So we've been doing this for quite a long time in Seattle, and we have a lengthy history of that. Across King County, my role at Public Health is actually to help support and organize these clinics across the county. And I've been working really closely with Mary already to help inform this process, help her understand, as she already knows at KPA, but help her work through some of the questions that you might have and really bring this forward. So Seattle now has 26 school-based clinics. We're in elementary, middle, and high schools. There are 2 in the Highline School District operated by our partners at HealthPoint. The KPA is your school-based clinic here, and 3 schools in Issaquah. All 3 Issaquah high schools actually have a mental health only type service, so it's a little bit of a modified model of service. But the providers across our county vary. So you'll see the list of providers there on the right-hand side of the slide. These are the organizations that actually provide the care in the school. And they're different. There are federally qualified health centers like HealthPoint, nonprofit hospitals like Swedish. Group Health is its own kind of entity. Neighbor Care is also a federally qualified health center. So you'll see a variety of different service providers that have experience in school-based health in our county. There are many advantages, and Dr. Newell has told you quite a bit about the advantages to having a school-based clinic. This is not just a doctor's office in your school. It's really an opportunity to give students this direct access to healthcare providers. Even with our Kent Health Center across the street, basically from Kent Meridian, it's not the same type of services that we'd be providing, and even for those services that they could get at the Kent Public Health Center, it really takes kids to trip over their healthcare to access that service. It reduces the time that they miss class. They're right into the clinic for a quick visit, right back out, so we get our seat time there. Parents don't have to miss work to take kids to the clinic or to other doctor's appointments if they needed to. There's no transportation issues. It's really an opportunity for a healthcare provider to help identify risky behaviors that can be identified and addressed immediately, and those risky behaviors in terms of health concerns and academics. Students learn how to be effective consumers of the healthcare system. This is really important. Making an appointment, keeping an appointment, showing up for that, communicating with your healthcare provider, understanding the needs that they have, and getting themselves taken care of. At the high school level, this is really important as we send kids off into the world. Some of the outcomes we've been able to show, these are all reference published studies and work that comes from various clinics around the country. But we have seen kids who use our school-based clinics and access care there have improved school attendance. We have a really strong study from our clinics in Seattle that I'll reference as well. But we know that compared to kids who don't access the clinic and may get healthcare otherwise or may not otherwise get their healthcare at all, their attendance is better, and they have increased and improved rates of graduation. Utilization of these services at school decreases emergency room and urgent care visits, decreases hospitalizations for kids with asthma and other chronic conditions. Most notably, there is improved access to and use of mental health services, which we know is really difficult to access and not readily available in many parts of our community. There's also improved access and use of preventive services. We consider school-based health to be really a preventive measure for a number of long-term health outcomes. Vaccination rates, we work really closely with our school nurse and our school district standards to be sure that kids have really direct opportunity and easy access to getting the vaccinations that they need to be in school. So specifically in Seattle, we work really closely to be sure that our school-based clinics, as I mentioned, not just a doctor's office sitting in your school, but these clinics are focused on supporting student success, supporting academic achievement for every child that they serve. They do this by working really closely with their school nurse to help assess for academic risk. They provide intensive interventions and referrals to support academic success. We have access, and we could set up a system there where the healthcare provider may have access to certain academic data where you can really say, how are you doing today? Thanks for coming in for your visit because you think you might have strep throat. When was the last time you were absent? Let's look at your absenteeism data. Is there anything that's really causing that absenteeism concern? How does that look with your family? What's your social history? What are your mental health concerns? Are you stressed about peer pressure? Is there stresses for school? Is there stress in your family? And how can we help tackle those things that are barriers to your achievement in school? The collaboration with school staff goes through all those levels as well, not just in isolation, but really working with school counselors, et cetera. And this final point here is really the study that I referenced before. Seattle's school-based health center use is associated with improved attendance and increased grade point average. So we're really proud to be able to say that the interventions we're providing, not just medical and mental health care, but really academic achievement.
All right, so school-based health centers in our district have a history of about 8 years ago. And when we started planning the Kent Phoenix Academy, there was a team of 24 people from across the district, including parents and staff, that looked at the needs of students that were at risk of graduation. And some of the reasons why those things, some of the reasons that, okay, blew that sentence, don't even remember it. But we looked at some of the factors or risk factors that were keeping students from being successful in school. And in that year of planning, the committees, we had 11 different committees that went across the United States and looked at programs. And we built a rubric based on protective factors that were set in place by the National Dropout Prevention Organization to specifically address risk factors of students, so ways to eliminate those. And we built a rubric for that. We had our 11 committees come back and take a look at or present those programs, and then those were scored against the rubric. So we took then the top 4 programs out of that planning committee process and put them in place in the Kent Phoenix Academy. The scoring was really surprising, that the highest scoring program that was to be in the academy was 87%, and it was school-based health centers and how they aligned with the protective factors that address the risk factors of keeping kids from school. Some of those factors that we identified as helping kids be successful in school was being connected to the school and feeling like you were a part of it, addressing the whole child, providing safety, flexibility, school, family, and community support, accountability, and quality staff. And the committee then recommended, and this is a statement from about 9 years ago, the vision and philosophy to support the social emotional health needs of students must be in place with the opening of the school, along with a physical space, even if the health center area is not fully operational. A phase-in of available services may be needed. An on-site health care center is critical to the success of our students. The programs that came in second to the school-based health center scored a 76%. So 87%, and a significant statement from the recommending committees of the need for a health care center in our district. You can see the things on our slide that the health care center provides for students, and these specifically address some of the factors for our Kent school students. High mobility rate in our district, students with home life issues, family responsibilities, and significant life events that negatively impact their progress towards graduation. Students with significant health issues, depression, illness due to stress, nutrition, oral health, tobacco, drug impact. Students with major truancies, students that have substantial disruptive behavior over time, and students who are pregnant and or teen parents. We have a school-based health center in our school, and 2 years ago we were able to increase the services from 2 days to 3. Our center is open 22 and a half hours a week. It's staffed with a registered nurse, and we also have an administrative assistant that works with coordinating the services, both for students in appointments, but also the handling of records. And we have 40 hours of mental health therapy that are provided through that center. So we have someone on site every day of the week to work with our students. The teen clinic client, these are some pretty amazing statistics. Last year, 82.6% of our students visited the teen clinic in one capacity or another. We have had a population last year
of 21% Hispanic population, and we had 26% of the population that visited our clinic was Hispanic Latino. The rest of the ethnic diversity in our school was mirrored by the visits to the teen clinic. The health center, primary care services, we had 207 students, unduplicated students, for a total of 747 visits. We had 116 unduplicated students that went in for mental health counseling and 738 visits, for a total of 1,485 visits in a school that has an on-site population of about 250 students. It's a significant resource for the success of Kent Phoenix Academy and Kent School District students. Some of the things, and I'm not going to get too, well, I will get a little graphic. We have and have seen a change in what our young people face today. And one of the newest activities online is a cutting club. And so students cut themselves and then take pictures and post it. This year we had a student come in that had 100 cuts across his chest. If we did not have a mental health counselor and a nurse on site, I don't know if we could have kept that student. That student graduated last year. We have students whose mother was murdered by their father, and the student then moves in with the father's mother, and the mother of his dad is wanting this young boy to go visit his dad in prison. Those are significant issues that our students face, let alone loss of family members, abuse at the hands of parents or boyfriends or girlfriends, depression and suicide ideation. It is not the same school that I went to, and neither is the community that our kids live in or the supports that are available to them. So those are significant issues. I do want to talk briefly, though, about some of the ways, in addition to the health clinic, that they support our schools. They provided us an AED emergency medical kit along with training for emergency care at our school. They also established emergency care protocols. We, 2 years ago, were able to reduce the self-reported tobacco use rate from 36% to 12% in our school. We were able then, because we had identified the additional needs as expanded hours, I believe that's what helped to bring some of the supports for our students, as well as some reductions in tobacco use. One of the things that they suggested were additional needs were hours for Kent Meridian students. We tried setting up a partnership with Kent Meridian. The nurse was available typically from 2 to 5. They were working late at night for Kent Meridian students to come to the school. I will tell you from firsthand experiences, kids will not visit another school to go get medical or social emotional support. Kids don't like leaving their big boundary schools and their friends. It's very difficult sometimes for you and I to even make an appointment to the doctor. And our kids saying you need to go see a doctor, it's not the same as saying, I'm going to make sure that this counselor sees you today. I'm going to make sure that you get to the nurse today. Those are the things, and that is when our kids can go directly in a class where there may be computer-based instruction, they may be ahead, it may be during lunch or after school, and they can get to the clinic and not disrupt their learning time. But they're not taking off for an appointment and being gone the rest of the day. And their parents, and when you look at the high-impact school at Kent Meridian and KPA with the free and reduced lunch rate, many of our families are working during the day. So our kids go without health care and mental health services, or they go without food because their parents aren't able to work. These are hourly wages, a lot of them. They are not salaried wages. It's a significant impact to a family. Some of the challenges, we meet twice a year with an advisory team and stakeholders on that team, including our parents and students. And some of the challenges that we're looking at for the next few years are obesity electronic smoking and hookah usage, go figure that one, increased substance abuse, and how we support Kent Meridian students through an on-site health care center. Our team also said that we would like to make sure that we maintain confidentiality of students that were coming into the healthcare center, and how do we do that so that it isn't something that they're nervous about going to go see someone at the center. Also encouraging students to come and make appointments before school, after school, and at lunch, and continuing efforts on smoking cessation and suicide prevention. The teen clinic supported our students 2 years ago with training and put together a student team, youth suicide prevention team, that actually went to our classes and worked with our students to identify students that were at risk of suicide. This is a regular problem in schools. It isn't new or unique to Kent Phoenix Academy. We've also linked the teen clinic with our new recovery program for the Kent School District around drug and alcohol abuse, and a chemical dependency counselor. So the ability to work with a student when something happens is significantly different than sending them off to have it happen and then come back maybe the next day or not. Versus, I'm walking you there, I care about you, we're going to work on this together, and I know you well. And I care that you are here and that you're successful. And I know the commitment of this school district. I've seen it firsthand in our school, and I appreciate that. And we need to continue to support a high-impact population of students at Kent Meridian as well.
One other anecdotal story with KPA. I was a school nurse there during the second part of the first year and recognized that one student had been absent for 133 days. Significant. And it's because he stayed home because his mother needed an inhaler. And it was his inhaler that he shared with his mother and little brother. Through the use and the workings with the nurse practitioner at the clinic, that nurse practitioner was able to get that family qualified for health care and be able to get inhalers for all of them, and a nebulizer for the little one because his asthma was worse, being in the house with a lot of mold. So it has made a major impact. As Sarah brought up, we do have the operational components. It's located within a school. There is an advisory board. It works cooperatively with the principal, the school nurse, teachers, counselors, and the community. And there's qualified licensed healthcare providers. It's comprehensive care, both medical and mental health. The advantages speak for itself, keeping the student in school to be academically successful. It goes along with board goals number 6, safe and sustainable, healthy and respectable school, and goal 7, which is effective partnerships with families, communities, and businesses. Our next steps, we've been working with Dr. Beeman to get an issue for a request for investment. Been working with Mr. Nguyen to be able to get a communication plan going, and with Dr. Stedry for facility development. So now we can open it to questions, since we have 2 experts here.
So questions from the board. Russ? Your question?
Sure. So remind me again of the facilities price tag we were thinking? At 1.8 million?
To be honest with you, I don't remember it being that high, but included in that number is 2 portables that we have to purchase because of moving 2 programs out of where the health clinic is going. So and right off the top of my head, I cannot give you the number, but it will come to you next week, next board meeting.
Okay. And the public health clinic, I understand it's over near iGrad. There's no capacity in that physical space for mental health providers and family planning and increased cooperation?
So the public health clinic at Kent East Hill currently has only family planning and WIC services, Women, Infants, and Children services. So they serve primarily people for family planning service and pregnant and parenting mothers and teens. That's the primary service that's always been there. Public health does not have capacity overall across the county to increase primary care sites. In fact, we just closed several primary care sites in this last year across the county, transitioned the care over to other providers. So as a whole, there's not an increase in primary care opportunities. So the school-based clinic would provide full scope of primary care service that you'd expect from any primary care provider in the community, and mental health in the school building. And just as we talked about opening KPA for the opportunity for kids to come over, they didn't come because they really do need to step on their care and be an integral part of their academic system.
Okay. You know, just a comment. I mean, I've given this like a tremendous amount of thought, and you know, insomnia, 1:30, I'm flipping through, and I was hit with a Flipboard is a program. We read news articles, and school-based popped up. And the data is overwhelming. And I don't know if you've heard what happened in Spokane. 5 suicides, 1 high school. And school-based programs decrease suicides. And, you know, it's the drum I'm going to beat for a long time that we have to replicate what's missing in the other higher performing school districts, and that's the parental piece. And a school-based health center replicates much of what's missing for the support of a kid. So anything that we can do to replicate that kind of support for a student's success is, I've got to back it. So I'm excited about this. I was leery at first because healthcare has a tendency, more healthcare isn't better healthcare, and I am concerned that there's a really good clinic right across the street. It's really close. I mean, you can pretty much, I could almost hit it with a golf ball. But the advantages of having it even closer is pretty compelling. So.
Maya?
So I was wondering if you could give a list of, kind of delineate what you would provide as service under public health versus the medical provider that we are putting it out for a bid.
So the role of public health currently across the county in my team, so I have 3 other program people that work with me. We are primarily funded by the city of Seattle to do a variety of work with those 26 clinics in the city. That being said, we work for the county, and we have an obligation to the entire county. And as I've been working with Mary, the clinics in Highline, clinics in Issaquah, we help everybody with really technical assistance and support in terms of operations, program quality management. We're really a system of 30 clinics across the county. We do a lot of things the same. We do a lot of things very differently based on the school districts that we're in, the buildings that we're in, elementary, middle, and high school. But we also help with that quality factor. For example, we have a mental health quality initiative going on right now. Everybody's tracking mental health quality and progress. That's an initiative that's led by public health and the work that we do for my unit. So we would offer that continued support to the team here, to any of the providers, the medical providers. We get everybody together once a month, all 7 of those medical providers, and discuss a variety of issues and make sure that we're all on track for meeting those greater needs for students academically. So that's the commitment from public health, is being able to provide that. Public health is not going to commit at this stage to being the service provider or otherwise, you know, and our balance is how are we, my work, you know, kind of primarily working for the city of Seattle because they fund me to do that. So there's kind of a tricky balance there. But our support is always here.
Excuse me, I've got a quick, since she's at the mic, can I ask her a question? So you, do what?
Just ask it.
Oh. So you have health finders for the audience. It's people who hook people up with the Affordable Care Act, yes, otherwise known as Obamacare.
Yes.
Would people be able to be directed to across the street? Oh, look, you don't have insurance. We need to send you across the street.
Absolutely. So typically, Just to give you a quick overview of a basic staffing model for a school-based clinic in a high school is typical, is at least one mental health provider. We have some clinics that have 2 or 3, sometimes a chemical dependency specialist as well. One medical provider who's typically a nurse practitioner or physician assistant who can prescribe medications and provide full scope of primary care. And the last person is usually a clinic coordinator. And that's a person that is also a certified in-person assister. So everybody across our system, that's one of the roles of public health, is we made sure everybody was a certified. So they don't have to send them across the street to get enrolled. They can actually do all the enrollment for whatever insurance they qualify for right there on site in school. Can also enroll families if they haven't yet accessed their insurance benefit as well. So that can all be done at school. And then they can access service in school or in other places in the community.
Okay.
Maya? Okay, Agda?
No questions, just to say thank you very much, and I'm really supportive because I know that the information about health and its linkages to academic success that you reported, so thanks, and I'm excited to hear more about developments as we move forward.
I don't have questions, but I have some comments. What Marilee said about the kids at KPA, their students at KPA, is really true. I sat in on 4 days worth of senior oral presentations, and what those kids have gone through and come through and are now graduating or close to graduating is just amazing. And I really think probably the health care center there has been a big part of that. A lot of us went to see the healthcare centers at South and at Cleveland High Schools in Seattle. And both of them have I call them the insurance finders. I don't remember what you just called them, but they can find the insurance right then and there, and I think that's really great. When we were at South, they talked about the actual building, the way they set it up. It was set up so that it was confidential, so that kids wouldn't pass other kids coming in out of the mental health door and all. So it was, it's really a plan for that. And I think that is all. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So I just had one, I really appreciate the idea, especially when you talk about, the mental health. I think that's so critical on different things and just from personal experiences that I guess I'd say I've had the unfortunate experience to go through. So, but I had a question in regards to the advisory board as far as what that will look like or when that process would actually start.
I think we would have to be able to look at the fact that if a proposal is accepted, then to develop an advisory board, and would be the principal, maybe the nurse, somebody from public health, somebody from the clinic, somebody from the community, probably a teacher, a counselor. So we would look at it from that perspective. Dr. Wong.
Great, thank you. Well, and I understand you're bringing something back next board meeting? Okay. All right. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming out tonight, so thank you. All right, so next we will move on to our high school graduation projection. Dr. Hong, I believe you're leading us in this.
Okay, President Strauss, Board of Directors, Dr. Apostle, and Ms. Hawley. Tonight, I just want to share briefly with you our graduation numbers for the upcoming graduation starting tomorrow at KPA. And so just switch up a little bit here. We intentionally left the percentages out this time, and it's because we often confuse the percentages that are presented here with the state's official numbers. And so we just want to share with you about roughly how many hands you will be shaking this weekend or starting tomorrow. So, and these numbers continually change. I don't know if Dr. Behringer's in the house. He just informed me this morning that instead of 288, they're up to 318 students. They've added 30 more that qualified. And so these are changing numbers, and they'll continue to change all the way up to Friday. And then Saturday, you'll have a few more additional. So at any rate, so we have about 1,579 students graduating total this week. And they vary by school. Also for KPA, I just want to point out the fact that of the 51 that says not graduated, they had roughly over half of those numbers where the kids enrolled this year already not qualified to graduate because they were already credit deficient. And so again, this is just a rough estimate of how many kids we will be seeing this week for during our commencement. Also, our iGrad, and just the total number of kids that will be at the Green River Community College. And again, KSD diploma, about 35 students, Washington State diploma, 32, GED, about 42, and one student with the AA degree. And as you recall, in iGrad, you know, after you've dropped out of school for many years, you could go back there and also earn your AA degree, which is really a neat thing. And so again, roughly 111 students passing through iGrad's doors. With that, any questions?
Any questions?
Will we be able to get all the iGrad students to come this year? I think
Well, we'll work on that, but that's, yeah. Often, many of those kids already, you know, they're adults working full-time, and so they often just, yeah. But you'll be there Friday, and so I will be there also, and so we'll see how many iGrad students show up.
that'll be good.
Any other questions or? No, looking forward to graduation as well as getting the final updates, so.
Yes, those numbers will come back sometime in summer. It's probably the first session, and then after November is when the state releases the real official numbers, and we'll come back to you with the real state numbers.
I did have a question.
Oh, you did have a question? Sorry.
So I remember when we opened up iGrad, and I asked Linda, you know, what are we doing? And it's people are actually on the phone, we're knocking on doors. I mean, is there the intents for the 71 at KM or the 34 at Kent Lake, like real intensive outreach?
Absolutely. I would say to qualify for iGrad, remember there is that waiting period that kids have to wait. But we do try to reach out, and iGrad does regularly go to comprehensive schools to recruit kids, and they've sent counselors there on a monthly basis and have booths ready for the kids to make sure that we capture the kids that are thinking about dropping out or know of a friend that's dropping out.
And I think I saw Dr. Behringer shaking his head that not only are they looking at the forward, but there's a great effort in making sure those kids, trying to get as many as we can to graduation for this Saturday as well.
Something happened to 30 of them.
Yeah, I don't think that was accidental. It was very deliberate, so.
Changed their mind or?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, they did, but.
All right, thank you. All right, so our last presentation tonight is on summer schools, and Dr. Bourget and Mr. Ogg, I believe, are presenting this.
Good morning. I'm sorry, good evening.
Could be, it's morning somewhere.
Members of the board and Dr. Apostle, I am grateful to have the opportunity to share with you what our summer programming looks like for the 2015. We are going to be focusing on summer programming and our expected outcomes. This year we have, it says 16, but we have 17 elementary schools that would be participating in the summer school programming. And you also received a summer school program guide that lists all of the summer programming that is happening at the schools. So, and the purpose of our summer programming guide is to make sure that when parents call, anyone that they call will have an opportunity to share with them where summer programming is being offered. So we have summer programming at 17 schools, which we just added Cedar Valley. Cedar Valley is offering summer programming. Daniel Elementary, East Hill, Fairwood, Horizon, Kent Elementary, Kent Valley Early Learning Center, Lake Youngs, Meadow Ridge, Millennium, Panther Lake, Park Orchard, Pine Tree, Ridgewood. We have Sawyer Woods, Scenic Hill, Springbrook. And then we have 4 middle schools that are offering summer programming. It's the Robotics Club or Camp, Summer Tech Camp. We have an ELL program that's being offered at Mill Creek. We also have a drill camp that is being offered at Northwood. And we have the Inclusive Education Extended School Year that is being offered as well. We have the high school program, Credit Recovery. This year we're doing Credit Recovery a little bit different in that we're going to be offering it 5 days a week as opposed to 4. And the purpose of that is just some things that we learned from last year, that we offered it, it was a free program, and we offered it, we had 1,100 students enroll, and we had a little less than 400 to complete the program. So with more seat time, the plan is that more students will finish. Actually, all of our students will finish. The expectation, as we are interviewing teachers, is that 25% of the coursework will be completed at the end of each week, and parents will be notified if that is not happening. We also have the 9th grade summer bridge program that's taking place there, and we have our lunch program that's being offered throughout the school district. Our intended outcomes is to make sure that we increase literacy throughout the programs that are being offered, prepare students for kindergarten, increase math knowledge and applications of skills, and increase knowledge on skill developments for robotics and computer programming, as well as increasing language development. And we say that because at KM, one of the things that we're doing differently is instead of offering a separate ELL program, the program is going to be attached, if you will, to credit recovery, in that they will be learning academic language to help, and we're hoping that that is also going to increase the completion rate. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions? Maya? You have a quick-
I just had one question. I was wondering if there were any discussions about having arts program over the summer, arts or music, visual arts, performing arts.
I know Northwood is going to be offering their dance camp, but as far as summer programming, that's all that I know, other than the fact that the C21 programming, they're going to offer opportunities for students to use the world as their classroom, where they'll be going to different places, exploring in the C21 programs. But as far as any others?
No, okay, thank you.
Karen?
How are students, how are the kids placed in these, are they invited? Are they told they need to go? How are they pulled in?
It's a combination of both. The principals have identified some of the students that need to participate, and for the programs that are happening at the middle school, for the robotics, it's open to the students at the school.
I'm looking at ones that need the support in the academics mostly. I'm wondering what percentage, or we probably don't know that, but what percentage of the kids who actually need it are coming?
Well, the principals are very intentional in identifying those students who actually need to come. It's a matter of will they come.
Yeah. Yeah. Russ?
So I scrolled through the other information with what schools had it, what schools didn't, and I noticed that Kent is very intentional. It's going for literacy, level 1 or whatever. But Neely doesn't have a program. So what if there's the same students at Neely, can they go to Kent? Or those students at Neely that need that are just kind of stuck through the summer?
It is actually up to the principals. What has happened is there are some principals who've called over to other schools and say, I only have a few students, not enough to open up an entire program. I have 1 or 2. Can those students come to your school? And principals have said yes.
Okay, so if there are like students at Neely, the expectation is that they would be going to Kent, or?
If there are students who are in need of a bigger program, and if the school has the funding, then the school will open up a program. But at this point, that has not been identified at Neely O'Brien.
Okay.
Ogda? So just really quickly, because I don't think you touched on it, do we provide transportation to any of these?
Transportation will be provided at the high school for one of the schools because of the distance, because we have 2 sites that will offer credit recovery. It would be Kent Meridian and Kentwood. And so for students who are going to Kentwood, who are not, and that's not their home school, transportation will be offered for that. Otherwise, transportation would not be offered. And that's listed there.
One more thing. Oh. I was just seeing the 9th grade bridge program. We talked about that at the roadmap meeting this week. The statistics are students that are missing 20 days or more of schooling. It just jumps between 8th grade and 9th grade, like 10%, or it's a huge amount. And so I hope that we're really looking at this summer bridge program for ninth graders and putting it across the board so we get more bang for our buck on that, I guess.
Maya?
That's the plan.
Good.
Yeah, I don't know if I missed it, but did we stop charging for summers?
There is no charge for any of the programs, with the exception of Northwood. They're having a summer drill camp, cheer camp, and students are paying for the cheer camp. But there's no charge for any of the programs.
And do you know when that started? Did that just start this year, or do we know?
But not
For credit
paying.
recovery?
Not charging summer
It started
school.
last year, as far as I know.
Last year, okay.
We started last year.
Okay,
Which is why we have that initial surge of students applying, and the number that was referenced, not all of those students actually showed up to actually take the course itself, and then there wasn't necessarily enough structure in place to ensure system being done.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Great.
Oh, just to clarify, this is principal driven. So if a principal says, no, we're good, we don't need it this summer, that's how summer programs are being decided?
Correct, it is principal driven.
Man, it just seems weird that Neely has pretty identical population of students that the needs aren't pretty close to the same. So I'd really like an evaluation at the end of the summer to see where the kids are, to compare the test outcomes of the two schools and see if the school, you know what I mean? You know, I don't want to articulate the whole evaluation process here, but something's not adding up for me on a couple things. I mean, I'm seeing Sawyer Woods. Really? Okay. You know.
That's a good point.
So one of the things that was requested of the principals as they were submitting their proposals is that they needed to list the expected outcomes, so you'll be able to have that at the end.
Yeah. Well, Sawyer Woods' expected outcomes are, more frosting on the cake when we got schools in the valley scrambling for meat and potatoes. So something's just not adding up for me. Appreciate the effort, glad we're doing a whole bunch of stuff, but there's stuff under the rug that I'm not seeing. So I hope that we thoroughly evaluate this summer's program and then identify and/or have a different way of deciding which schools are going to have summer programs.
I would just add that when Dr. Borshade talks about the principal's decision, it is also the principal's authority to also budget for that for the summer. Now, that same principal with very like schools right next to each other that you referenced, that other principal likely used those same dollars to extend their day during the year and added additional staffing during the year to support the kids bell to bell. And so there is actually not a lot of research to show the effects of summer school on academics, with the exception of just a little bit of impact on summer slide for students that might be losing some of those skills over time. That impact of budgeting for that time from bell to bell and making that the very best instruction possible, that could be that neighborhood school that made that decision instead of budgeting for summer school. But I 100% agree. Dr. Borshade is going to have great measurables for us by probably early fall that we can really measure whether or not this is a successful model and something we would want to, potentially expand or budget for specifically for our elementary schools.
Great, thank you.
That's a gazillion more helpful.
And
right.
also, I'm sorry,
Okay.
can we also advertise this right away? Because I remember last year, no one knew about the programs, our summer programs, until like the 11th hour. So, yeah, please, if you can put that out. And I'm not sure what the outreach plan is, but hopefully it'll be far and wide.
Thank you, will do.
Yeah, thank you.
I believe, Mr. Ogg, you were going to talk to us about nutritional services for the summer.
President Strauss, members of the board, Dr. Apostle, Ms. Holly. I'm just going to just briefly give you some follow-up to what Dr. Borshade said. Our program will start on the Monday after school's out, so on June 22nd. We will start and we'll go through August 21st. This poster will be around town. We've been posting it on the website, also getting it to the schools. Right now, we've got 31 sites we'll be visiting. That's a combination of schools, parks, apartments that we go out to. And the reason is we're feeding the kids during the summer. And last summer, we did about 55,000 meals over the summer. We are now starting to do breakfast at some of the school programs. And as those increase, we will be trying to offer that service there. During the summer, this is our guidelines that we go by. We're going by the summer food service program instead of going through the National School Lunch Program. And so they allow us to offer free meals to all kids as long as we meet one of these criteria. So it has to be a school that has 50% free and reduced, or have feeder schools such as an elementary or middle school that feeds into that school that are 50%, or be held in the proximity of a school that's 50%. So a lot of our park sites are close to schools that do meet that guideline, as well as the apartments. And Dr. Borsche doesn't know this, but I think we've qualified Kentwood now also to get free meals. But the sites have to be open for the community. So that's the kick. That's the piece that we have to advertise. It's not a closed site, so anybody can come to that site if they're 18 and under, and we will feed them. So each child, so you can't get a free lunch. So each child gets one lunch. They have to eat it on site. They can't take it home. Parents and adults cannot eat it, and we do have some challenges with that during the summertime. And they're, of course, available to all children. So, any questions?
Great program, wonderful, wonderful outreach, and really impressed.
It's important
with the kind of nutrition support that's being provided during this summer session. Great.
Any other questions or comments?
No, I agree, and I work on the Kent School Board, Kent Food Bank, Kent Food Bank Board, and they very much appreciate all that you do over the summer.
And I'm sure there's more we can reach out, so that's always a challenge. So it's getting kids, and that's one of the challenges we have is forecasting. Is sometimes they show up and sometimes they don't. So it makes it difficult sometimes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so that concludes our presentations for this evening. And next on tonight's agenda, we have a resolution. This is Resolution 1467, Directive to the Legislature to fully fund education. And I'm asking for a motion to approve 1467.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Are there any discussions or questions from the board in regards to the resolution?
Thank you for doing it.
Well, yeah. Does anybody want to go first this time?
Is it, how's it given to them? Is it delivered? Is it mailed?
So I believe in the past we have mailed it unless someone wants to personally deliver it. We've made sure that it does get to them.
And delivered to one specific person or the speaker or who? I mean, who does it? Who's it given to?
We intend to provide copies of the letter to multiple parties responsible for, who are the decision makers and influentials in the legislature. Absolutely.
One's from our district or?
Absolutely, from our district as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Maya, you're good. Russ?
You know, I'm tardy to the party on this one, and I wish I would have gotten it in on Monday. And I'll just state it for, the one time I've testified in Olympia, it was the only point that I wanted to emphatically make, and that is if I could have added one line to this and amended it, I would have said, whereas the Kent School District acknowledges the expertise of financial administrative leaders within many of the school districts in the state and should be consulted in comprehensive funding reform. It's really disappointing to watch the legislatures try to do their stuff without involving the real experts within this state. There is so much knowledge that could help them instead of them spinning their wheels a bit. So that's the only language I wish I would have recommended we added, but it's too late, and that's fine now. I just wanted to make the point for the public purposes. And I hope that we also do a press release to the Kent Reporter we pass this. Oh, hey. I recognize the face, forget the name.
All right, so any other questions or comments on the motion? Okay, then I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, motion passes. And Dr. Postle, you'll take care of making sure that that gets.
Absolutely.
Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, so next we're moving on to the consent agenda. Is there anything that the board would like to pull from tonight's consent agenda?
Yes.
Maya?
5.02 and 5.12.
5.02 and 5.12?
Yes.
Okay.
12.
Sorry, 12.
Oh, 12.
Okay. Anything else? All right, then I will go ahead and call for the motion to approve the consent agenda less 5.02 and 5.12.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Maya, 5.02?
5.02, just the board minutes from May 27th. I'd just like to clarify a couple of comments I made. First is that it says Auburn Mountain View has 23 kids, 23 of our Kent kids, and it's 23% of our kids. So I just would like that corrected in the meeting minutes. And then also it said something about STEM training for middle schools, but what I mentioned was that there was a STEM training through Washington First Robotics for our teachers. So I just wanted those two things to correct.
All right, thank you. And then on 5.12?
And on 5.12, it's fine if we don't have answers, but I had questions about a number of items that were over 50,000. I know we've had a long-standing partnership with Dynamic Partners, but I wondered if the 66,000 yearly contract amount to them is is that a yearly contract amount, or if that's something that we do regularly? Do we know, or?
I'll have to get that information for you, because I don't have that information
Okay.
now.
And then I had a question about the taxis for displaced students as well. That's $95,000. If they're our sole provider, or if we have other organizations.
Again, I'd like to be able to look at it and get back to you.
Okay. That's it.
All right, thank you. So, Maya, are you okay if we vote on the two together?
Yeah.
Okay. So at this time, I accept a motion for consent agenda items 5.02 and 5.12.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say.
I
Oops,
have
sorry.
a question
Oh, go ahead.
regarding the minutes. So I'm assuming those are revised to incorporate the changes?
Yes.
And then we're approving the revision?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. So all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. So at this time, we have some information. We have, this is information only. No motion or no action is needed to be taken on these. On the general fund expenditure summary report, are there any questions? Comments? Okay. Right, and 6.02, the April 2015 financial statement. Again, this is for information only. Any questions? And 6.03, this is a first reading of revised policy 3210, non-discrimination. This is a first reading. We'll do approval at a subsequent meeting, but are there any questions or comments in regards to the reading?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Dr.
Agda?
Oh, I had a question which I'd gotten answered, and actually I had a comment too, which I was going to go ahead and make. And so this was regarding the very last paragraph of the policy, up above the cross-reference section, and it has to do with the training that we would provide. And it wasn't clear to me what, it says that we're going to provide the training for administrators, certificated, and classroom personnel about the policy and also to raise awareness of eliminate bias and discrimination. So I wasn't clear what the protected classes were, and it is all the groups that were referenced in the beginning of the policy, so that was clarified for me. And then my comment about it was that it seems to me most of this policy has to do with compliance, which is an important thing, but I also felt like the end of this, which I thought was a good thing, was also around more than compliance, but really to increase people's awareness about biases and discrimination. And I saw that as a positive thing, and I was curious or interested in is the possibility of expanding it so that that training is not available just to administrators and certificated and classroom personnel, but would be available to all staff in the district to participate in. So.
Okay, so I was looking at the section that we're looking at, and it says 3,000 students. So I guess my question was, is it supporting staff as well, not just students? That's my first question.
Thank you. President Strauss, members of the board, Dr. Apostle, Ms. Holly. Yes, this is a recommended student policy from WASDA. There is another accompanying policy in the 5,000 series that actually has to do with employment. This is specifically around student non-discrimination policies and procedures.
Okay, what threw me off is it said honorably discharged veteran or military status.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it looks like are we taking stuff and plugging it in?
Dr. Beeman actually asked me about that same question because some of these seemed a little silly, but there were some small possibilities that like some of these could play in, like military status. Sometimes students are accepted into the military before they graduate from high school, and it is conceivable if somebody had a problem with that could result in a discriminatory practice. But so some of these, yes, are very less likely that that's going on. But remember, we also have students that can attend up to 21 years old, and so I think that's why they cover all this under student policies.
Okay, so do we, for the employees, are these specific categories also listed? I haven't looked at it. I should know that, but I don't. So are we changing, are we adding, which one, gender,
Expression.
identity and all of that to the employment as well, or, for the staff as well? I was just wondering why we're only looking at this, but not the employees.
That's a wonderful question, and we will be looking at the specific policy that pertains to employees. This one focuses on students, but all individuals are protected and with the same rights and opportunities from bias and discrimination.
Okay.
Right. And one of the
definitions of those come from the Washington Law Against Discrimination, and that specifically calls out gender identity and expression as being protected, and that change in law came down, and it's been incorporated in policy. It came down years ago.
Right.
Okay.
And specifically why why it's important to get the student one onto this June agenda and hopefully pass next time is that there's a requirement to have this up-to-date statement in our written student materials that are going out at the beginning of next school year. So we want to make sure that we have the most up-to-date so that we can put it in our handbooks and newsletters and all the things that will be going out at the beginning of the next school year.
Okay. Sure. I just had one more question. That's, do we have a compliance officer? Title IX, I think we have, right?
Well, we have a compliance officer. It's me.
Okay. So you're Title IX plus
But
everything.
Title IX is actually Dr. Beeman is the Title IX. They call out different compliance officers, and I am the non-discrimination compliance officer.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions on the reading? All right. Thank you, Randy. Okay, so we are actually moving now to our communication from the audience. So I appreciate we have quite a few cards tonight, so I appreciate the patience of the people in the audience. So how this will work is I'm going to call the person, I'll call the first person, I'll call the person on deck, just so we can keep things moving. It will be this mic over to my right, and you will have 3 minutes to address the board when your name is called. So if you could please state your name when you come up, that would be great. And then what we will do is we'll just go through. And again, as part of the process, for those of you who have not been here before, generally what happens is the board listens, but the board does not respond to anything that's being said, just so you know that we're not up here, we are listening. So
Let me put these in order here.
Okay, Karen's rearranging some, but there were some that were in a different order for a reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to start with McKenna Millar, and then Jennifer, and I didn't pronounce the last name wrong, sorry, Lamar. So we'll have McKenna and then Jennifer. So if you could use this mic over here, please.
Board members and Dr. Apostle. My name is McKenna Lamar, and I'm here to talk about Miss Dropney. When she's not too serious, she does a lot of fundraisers like selling donuts. She was very caring. She was amazing with mainly everything she does. She is so loving with all of her students and others. On school days, she would wear crazy outfits. She did a ton of fundraisers for field trips and other stuff. She is kind and very nice. She is so funny and very smart. She does random things to make us happy, like have lunch with us in her office. Thank you.
Thank you. So following Jennifer will be Madison Lamar.
Thank you, board members and Dr. Apostle, for listening. I am here regarding Patty Dromney, which was our prior principal last year. Our current principal, Mr. Martin, is no longer going to be here next year. So we are really wanting her back for a number of reasons. She understands the culture at Seuss Creek and feels passionate about involving the parents and the community in the events and the decisions that are made for the students at Seuss Creek. She lived in our community and knows most of our families. She understands special education and was involved in every IEP. She expects growth from all of our students, from the IP to the gifted and everyone in between. She is passionate about supporting families from diverse social, economic, academic, and ethnic backgrounds. She knows how to lead our teachers and how to encourage our staff and accelerate learning for all of our students. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And following Madison will be Dina Whipple.
Hello, hello, board members and Dr. Apostle, and thank you for listening. I really want Miss Drobny back at our school because she loved us and she cared about us, and she always wore funny outfits on like special occasions. Like one day it was Dr. Seuss's birthday, and she wore a funny Dr. Seuss outfit, and just to make us all happy. And she would have lunch with us, and thank you.
Thank you. So following Dina will be Kristen.
Lewandowski.
Thank you, Lewandowski. Thank you.
Thank you, board, for giving me an opportunity to talk. I'm going to try to read what I wrote. I come here tonight to share my thoughts about a very important person, Patty Drobny. Mrs. Drobny is finishing up her first year as principal at Daniel Elementary. Previously, she held that same position at Seuss Creek for 10 years. During that time, I got to know Mrs. Drobny from 3 different points of view. First, I've been a Seuss Creek parent for 12 years. Mrs. Drobny didn't just shoot the breeze with parents. She actually listened and responded in a way that told you she really heard what you said. She has handled discipline issues in a fair and calm way. She communicated with parents and was a visible leader for the school. Secondly, I have known Mrs. Drobny as a PTA board member. I was president of Seuss Creek PTA for 3 years and worked side by side with Mrs. Drobny to plan events and bring in as many families to those events as we could. Mrs. Drobny rarely missed a PTA function and was always willing to help find a solution if the board ran into a roadblock or had a disagreement. She was a partner, an ally, and from what I have heard from other PTAs, a rare gem. Lastly, Patty Drobny was my boss when I worked at Seuss Creek as a paraeducator. Mrs. Drobny has a gift for creating a cohesive work environment. Our staff worked together like a well-oiled machine. We loved our school, we loved our leader, and it showed in everything that we did. I have worked at only 2 schools in the district and consider myself to have worked under 2 of the very best, the other being Colleen Nelson, who's retiring. Since I work for the district, I hear things, and I understand that Patty Drobny's request to return to Seuss Creek was denied. I have also heard that some staff and parents at Daniel are unhappy with her as their principal, which, to be honest, is really hard to believe. But if Mrs. Drobny wants to return to Seuss Creek, her current workplace wants to see a change, and her old school home wants her back, then doesn't it make sense to make that change? Seuss Creek hasn't been the same since she left. The morale of the families is down, the communication between school and parents is poor, and things feel like they are going downhill. I cannot imagine bringing in another new face to a school that's already suffering. Please help make a positive change for Seuss Creek and let Patty Drobny come back. Thank you.
So following Kristen will be Brandy Roward.
President Strauss, board members, and Dr. Apostle. My name is Kirsten Lewandowski, and I am a teacher at Seuss Creek Elementary, and I too am here to advocate for Patty Drobny to return. We would like Mrs. Drobny to return because she has a unique skill set that our school needs. Our school has 2 developmental preschools, a self-contained K-3 program, a self-contained 4-6 program, the K-3 Link program, which is designed for students with autism, and we also have many students in our building who qualify for gifted, but their families have chosen to keep them at our school. We're a title school, and we have over 100 ELL students. And I think that for these reasons, our school is very unique, but we would not change it. We love that our school is that way. We're feeling like we need a principal with a proven track record in leadership, empowering students, staff, and families. We need somebody who intimately understands the needs and logistics involved with special needs students, students in crisis, and how to support families in this position. There has been a dynamic change in leadership in the special education department at the district, in addition to other departments, and this has been very disconcerting. We're very excited to have a new superintendent who's going to be involved with the hiring process from the beginning to the end. But we are feeling that we need a leader who really understands the special education laws for the state of Washington. Mrs. Drobny has that proven track record of leading and empowering students, staff, and families. Board members, I have been so impressed tonight. I want to thank you for your service to the Kent School District and reading your bios. I see that most of you have served here for many, many years, and you are the constant factor that this district has. And I guess I would like to request, and you may already be involved personally in hiring of principals, but I guess I would ask that you would be involved in that hiring, one of you would be involved in that hiring process when it comes to principals. Please make sure for yourself that the candidates have those qualifications that meet the needs of each individual school. We have a very unique, everybody I'm sure is thinking that their school is very individual and very unique, but it really is. Mrs. Drobny intimately understands the special education process for the district in addition to the laws of for the state of Washington. She has that proven track record. If there's a problem, her door's always open. She took care of issues. I guess we would like to request, very respectfully, to reconsider her request and reinstate Mrs. Drobny as our principal. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess just on a side note, I did want to say to Dr. Apostle, thank you for your time here at Kent School District in terms of seeing administrators come and those transitions. It's been a smooth transition from our perspective, so thank you for that.
So following Brandy will be, Mr. Hussein.
Hello, good evening. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Brandy Rowland, and I work for Kent Youth and Family Services as a family engagement facilitator. And I work in Kent East Hill with all these parents, this site specifically Valley Key, but I also work in Birch Creek and Cascade. And we're coming tonight to voice our concerns regarding transportation. We'd like to give you a little bit of background information on how this community came to the journey that led us all here tonight. I'm really here just to kind of introduce them because they've really done all the hard work and legwork. Valley Key is a King County Housing Authority site that houses low-income refugee and immigrant families. Several of our residents have disabilities and language barriers that make our population unique and diverse community. Despite these differences, we came together to discuss the educational needs and dreams for the children that we have, and we invited staff from East Hill Elementary School, Kent School District Early Learning, Refugee Women's Alliance, Children's Home Society, King County Housing Authority, and Kent Youth and Family Services. We had a fantastic participation and attendance from our parents and leaders in the community, including Dr. Brian Patrick, Paige Meyer, and several of our community providers. This meeting, which we call a community cafe, is more from a parent's perspective to educate the community, generated productive conversation, but the most pressing issue that arose was the lack of bus transportation and how it impacted our children's educational success. Because of this concern, we arranged a meeting with Justin Dennison, the Assistant Director of Transportation, Dr. Brian Patrick, the Principal of East Hill, Dr. Thomas, the Director of Family and Community Services and the former Principal of East Hill, and myself. And we also had a parent representative from the community come as well. It was very overwhelmingly obvious that we would need to move forward in securing some sort of safe route for our children to and from school. So this is our next step in that route. We have identified many dangers and issues surrounding there is no safe walking route to school, and there is no public transportation to school through the school district. So we had another community cafe, came together, crafted a letter for you all. We have signatures from the community for you as well, and we appreciate you taking your time to listen. We have about 100 students just in Valley Key that this is impacting. So thank you so much for your time, and I can leave this with you if you'd like.
Yes, please. So, sorry. I know you had an order that you wanted, and I'm not sure my cards are still in the same order, so.
Was it?
Is it okay if they all gather together and then?
That's fine. As long if you can say their names, just so I make sure that we have the card, that'd be perfect.
Sirat Hussain, and I'm one of the parents living in Valley Key. And the reason I came today was about bus our kids. They go to school and they don't have a bus. It's 0.7, I believe, and it's supposed to be 1, but it is not safe that kids walk. And even me as a parent, if I decide to take my children to walk that road because walking is good and it's good as exercise to walk to school is not safe. Even me as an adult holding my kids. So for us as a low-income community, we need our kids to go to school, but 10 o'clock, I see personally kids playing on the playground. That makes me very disappointed, upset, that kids cannot go to school because their parent is either paying the rent or they have one parent that go to work and then they don't have anybody else to give them a ride. And if I have a van and I have 2 other neighbors that their kids come with me, and sometimes it's taking 8 kids sometimes, even if I have to, then that's what we going through every day. And there's, we have to, our kids to go to school, but there is no safe route
to our kids to get there. So most of the kids, some of the kids, they don't go to school. They stay home. Then they got called, and we got blamed as a parent that our kids is not on time and they're not going to school. And we need that transportation very much to our kids to make sure our kids ride that bus. And we don't have to worry about when we go to work, is your child gonna get home safe? Or is some of the parents I see, young kids, they have cell phone, even though cell phone, I wouldn't give my kids the cell phone. I mean, 10 years, they have cell phone because their parent is worried about they might get kidnapped and it's not safe, so they have to contact. So thank you for listening, and I appreciate it for the time.
Thank you. So I have, and I apologize because I know I'm not going to get the names right. You're Michael, yes. I'm not even going to try and pronounce your last name because I know I won't do it justice. So it would be next, and then Svetlana. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for inviting this. And I have some problems in English to talk more. I have in my idea by my language. So that's hard English for me, and I am new with this. And I live in apartment Valaki, and I have been 1 year, and that's for families, children to East Hill very hard to walk because America rainy. Walk every the same. That's good for exercise. So rainy. So for the family very hard to walk. Rain time, stop home. No work because absent the school. That's no good. So we need the bus to do Valiki. We have some big problems for the future, for the kids, no safe the places. And to work very hard, hard rains. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Oh, my name is Svetlana Visarabo, and I live in Valaki for a long time ago. And I agree with those people because the safety for our children, and it's very, very important. And it's two-way to go to the school. It's a 104, one busy road, or through the back park. And the winter time, it's very, very dark in the park. It's no light there. And the 100 who's going to straight to the school, it's no sidewalk. You can even hold your child's hands. You have to go right behind each other. And we have so many kindergartens in our apartments. And you cannot send kindergartens to school. And we have so many mothers who have young children, just new children born, and they cannot walk them. And it's, we just see we need this bus because so many kindergartens this year stay home because parents cannot take them there. Thank you so much because we've been talking a long time about that and we need help. It's going to be very nice if you're going to help us. Thank you.
Thank you. So next I have, and I apologize, Abedruman.
Can I leave this with you? It's kind of
Yes.
we, with interpreters, had to outline all the different
Yes.
reasons that parents identified, so it's easier to have it written. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, audience. What I'm here tonight to talk is concerning about the community of Valiki and community of Valiki for my experience when the parent their children transferred to the middle school, they're glad because elementary East Hill is the priority school who is close to the community. And in that area, if you see, there's a very congested area, and it's very traffic in all the most of the day. And children, they cannot walk the side. And this is more than 2 or 3 times we talk about the Valley community. I'm representing Somali American Parent Association, SABA. So as a community, we talk, and it was some of my compromise to reach this message to the board and school superintendent. So another issue is the issue of the health care in the school. In our county, we need a health care, and we need a lot of health cares. But the concerning about when we are talking about the school, there is a certain priority staff that we need to improve for the success of the students. A lot of times, we're listening sisters when they are talking about the school and the health care will guide the success of the student. I agree with them, but I am encouraging to the board and the superintendent to give a time and to give discussion with the community. Because what we are expecting, some community to hold the kids in the home and to change their going to the school in place, kids going to day school, to change to the home school. And this case, we are very insisted to talk with the other communities and to discuss very, because sometimes children, they have Medicare, they have historical providers, they have, so when we're making budget to build in a Medicare or health center, there is a lot of other staff that needs to invest the kids to improve their success, specifically the diverse community, specifically the immigrant students, those still couldn't able to catch up with the way of succeed. So I just came to reach my voice, and I am advocating SABA, Somali American Parent Association, and thank you for the chance that you offered me.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So our next person that we have is Stephen Lloyd, and following, oh, Mr. Dury, did you cover both in that one, or did you want to speak again? Or?
Yeah, I'm with those times, but I finished.
Okay, thank you. So after, our last one tonight will be Asad Hassan. Okay, thank you.
My name's Steve Lloyd. I'm a teacher at TOP, the outreach programs for students with disabilities that are 18 to 21. I just wanted to express my thanks for the board members and Dr. Apostle and many other faces that are in the audience that attended and supported us there at TOP. It really stands up to the saying up there, successfully preparing all students for their futures. And I thank you, Chris, for the great stuff on the website today. It's just nice to know that people are recognizing what the TOP program is doing and the value of the TOP program. And as we move forward and potentially expand and offer more services to more students, that we're not forgotten about. And we know that you guys are there to support us through our changes. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So, Mr. Hassan?
Hello. Okay. Board President Stratus, Dr. Apostle, member of the board and the community, good evening. My name is Asad Hassan. I'm a refugee and immigrant activist. I'm also a father who have children attending Kent School District. Tonight, I'm here to discuss about the issue about the Kent Meridian Health Clinic proposal. Frankly, we don't know enough information about it, and a quick PowerPoint presentation tonight will not really do it justice to know much about it. And I think it's fair enough to have a forum for the community to discuss about it and to explain why we need a health clinic right in middle school, in high school. When we have community clinics like Health Point, Valley Medical Clinic, Public Health School, Public Health, King County Public Health, within less than 2 miles with the Kent Meridian High School. So I think it's important to have this discussion first. And the price tag that attaches to, it's 1.8 million. I mean, imagine what we can do with 1.8 million for our kids. We're talking about issues about shortage of buses now. Our kids are walking unsafe distance to school. We also have a lot of issues with diversity, lack of people of color representing the 130 languages our kids speak in Kent School District. So definitely this issue needs to be examined and discussed in the community before we move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that concludes tonight's public comment, and would like to thank everyone that did participate. And we will move on to our superintendent's report. Dr. Apostle.
Well, I just, I said what I needed to say earlier when the board presented me a very generous gift. Again, I just keep my comments short. Thank you very much. This has been a wonderful place to work, and I wish everyone good luck, and good fortune, and good health. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll move on to board reports for this evening. We'll start with Agda.
Okay. Let's see, this past week I was out advocating with teachers and others for fully funding our legislature, so I did that. And I'm very much looking forward to graduation this week. It's always a very exciting time for me to see our students graduate. And I'll take a moment of personal privilege to say that I'm very excited about my daughter graduating. And I'm so pleased that, again, as I've said before, that we have so many different options for all of our students. And my daughter's gone through our schools and was attending Kentwood, and then decided KPA would be a better match for her, and then decided Running Start would be a better match. And so she's going to be getting her AA from Highline, and also going through Kentwood's graduation. So I want to thank everyone in the district who's helped contribute to our success of her and all of our students in the Kent School District. So thank you.
Thank you. Maya?
Yes, first, I want to also thank Steve Lloyd here. We were at the top graduation, and what a great night. I think it's one of my favorite evenings of the year, and thank you for all you do, Steve, for the kids there. I also attended a Chamber Education meeting. I serve on their education committee, and they're talking about doing the Career Day, which was an incredible success last year, at Meridian, to do it at possibly Mill Creek or Matson. So we had a discussion on the structure of that. Attended the Washington Achievement Award at KM. Congratulations to Dr. Behringer and staff. How wonderful, I believe, for ELL acquisition. And had a chance to also watch Dr. Ensing's presentation on PD 360 and learned about the online library of educational resources for our teachers. Sounds great. And roadmap roundtable the other day, we went through some data that's available. A lot of staff that were there to help with the program, and so it was great partnership between the community and school district. So thank you to all who participated in that, and Also was with the Kent International Festival. It was a lot of fun to meet with our communities. And then yesterday I participated with the KEA rally on fully funding public education.
Thank you. Russ?
Not a whole lot. I did spend a lot of time on the phone with Sarah from Public Health yesterday, just getting more background information. And I haven't been to a meeting in 2 months, and it's unfortunate that I had a couple things, family obligations and out-of-town travel. But I did attend, within the last month, I did attend a couple music programs at Kent Elementary, and it's exciting because it's 5th and 6th grade band and orchestra, see our work in action and really appreciate it. And the teachers really did call out the community's involvement made a difference, and that felt really good for the teachers to be engaging the parents of, see, when your voices are heard, we have new things. And we wouldn't have had this concert 2 years ago. The sound was so bad. So I hope we can find that student who wants to go into, was it sound and lighting? I think it was. I know I focused on the lighting, but there's opportunities, I think, within our school districts, because it's kind of like, you know, going to see a beautiful play and then closing your eyes. And, you know, you go to a band and orchestra concert and you can't hear it. It's, fortunately, because of my position, I get a little anxious that that's happening, but the parents' enthusiasm and the kids, they probably didn't know any different. But I think there's opportunities as we talk about bonds and school improvement things, that with technology that's out there now, I really hope we can assess where our sound system is in some of our schools. And I just want to call out the fact, someone pointed out to me that, man, you missed the announcement of our new superintendent. You missed the meeting where we ratified his contract. So, Dr. Watts, it was just by happen chance. I'm very glad you're here. Been enthusiastically communicating with you. Really looking forward. Greatly appreciate all the work that Dr. Apostle has done. But very glad you're here and the direction that we're headed. I know that there's a couple of other things, but I just can't think of them right now.
Thank you. Karen?
I attended the top graduation also, and it's definitely a Kleenex event. And I just want to say that, and I told Steve this, I just loved being a teacher. I love the way you scaffolded the presentations of the kids so that the kids who really, really needed all the help, the paper was there with answers to the questions that they were supposed to answer, and you were actually helping them, or Trace was helping them with their answers if they couldn't quite remember their answers. And then those who could handle, you just gave them the microphone and they went for it. And it's really good to see the differentiation that you did there. So I really enjoyed that. I went to Glen Ridge Elementary to help present the Washington Achievement for Reading Growth. And that was, they had a really nice spread of food there. And nobody was eating.
Except you?
No, I didn't. But it was really, I always like to talk to teachers, especially elementary teachers, because that's where my level is. But I really enjoyed that. Anyway, roadmap roundtable, I went to that also, and we sat in tables and focused on specific things on the data, and we really were looking at we just really got focused on, okay, these kids are missing school. They're from 20 or more days of school. How are we going to get them in school? How are we going to keep them in school? How are we going to keep them from middle school, that jump where they start missing a lot of days of school? So I think we're looking towards that. Brad had students there, different voices, and I loved hearing from the students, and they were all talking about, one of the questions was what barriers are there? And I was fully expecting them to say, this is wrong with the school, this was wrong with the school, this was wrong with the school. Most of them said the barriers were within themselves. It was the lack of self-confidence or the lack of language or whatever. And I just thought that was really interesting that they were so self-aware, enough that that's where they were on it. So I was writing down madly the things that they were saying so that I could kind of remember them. And then also, I was out sign waving with KEA advocating for full funding from the legislature, so, yeah.
Thank you. So I have a couple of things. I had the opportunity to go to VizFest, and so I really enjoyed that. It was one of the things that there was a group of fourth graders that I can't remember the school they're from, and I apologize, but they were so excited. They had done a video game, and so I asked them about how they built it and the different things, and they have an after-school club where they're going, yeah, we're going to learn Java programming, and I asked him, I said, well, what are you going to do next year? And he looks at me and he goes, 5th grade. And so I also got to talk to some of the other students that had done films and been able to see the different, and to talk to those students about, how did you develop your games and what types of things you did. So I really enjoyed that. And then I also attended the ASL music program at Kent Lake. And it's always an outstanding program. I'm just always amazed at what they do there. And then I also got to attend the TOPS graduation, and one of the things that always stands out to me is the number of kids that have graduated in past years that come back for that, to visit their friends and to see things. And for the past, I think, 2 or 3 years, I've known a family that has a student in there, and so to be able to see their enthusiasm and be able to talk to them about how important that program is to them is always very nice. And then I, too, need to take a point of personal privilege. I'm very excited for graduation. My youngest daughter is graduating, and I told her that she said I wouldn't do this, but I said I would. It's also her 18th birthday today, so I said I'd say happy birthday since I'm not there, and then she could watch it. So, but graduation is always such an exciting time to see the excitement, all the different emotions that we see in our students' faces as they come through. Some are terrified of even walking across the street. Others are like, hey, give me it, I'm out of here. And so, but just the opportunities that we as a district have been able to provide for our students, and as we look for increasing those opportunities to really help us be able to successfully meet the needs of all of our students. And we're not there yet, but we're working on it and we're making strides. And so as we continue to go forward and looking at different ways of how do we really do that, to make sure that when we look at those graduation numbers, that we really, I'm looking forward to the day where we get our graduation numbers in every single one of our students. There's not anybody on that way we didn't get it list. And I know we can get there. And so I appreciate all the efforts that everyone makes in helping to make sure that students can be successful. So with that, we shall adjourn for the evening. Thank you very much for being here tonight, and we'll see a lot of you at graduation.